The Spin-off Podcast Network.
This is Kiwi is back for a brand new season with more inspiring kōrero from special guests including rugby player, father and role model TJ Perenara.
My family bring me joy. Rugby brings me joy too, but it's not the same joy as my family brings me.
And global dancer and choreographer Kirsten Dodgen.
For some reason, people think I'm very intimidating.
Listen to the new season of This is Kiwi, brought to you by the Spin-off Podcast Network in collaboration with KiwiBank. Available now wherever you get your podcasts.
Kia ora, I'm Alex Casey, senior writer at The Spin-off. We wouldn't exist without the ongoing support of our generous members. If you're able to, you can make a donation at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
NAIR is public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Kia ora to the world. Nau mai, welcome to another episode of NAIR. Te Kuru o te Marama Dews here from Ngāti Porou, Ngāti Rangitihi, hosting my last ep for the season, and we've got something interesting cooking in the umu today. Hōhepa Thompson from Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wairarapa, Toa Rangatira and Tahu, better known by his artist name Hori, or the Hori on IG, is a multi-dimensional artist based in Auraki. The bro has a habit of raising conversations that some people might find difficult, such as exploring our colonial past and the ongoing impacts of colonisation on the psyche of people who choose to call Aotearoa home. Recently, he was raising awareness around the country and internationally through an initiative called This is Aotearoa, visiting towns around the country, towing a billboard that asserted the name Aotearoa. Hori says that many Māori and tangata tiriti in Aotearoa are very forward-thinking, but we do have those rednecks out there who can't see the forest for the trees. He says his kaupapa aren't about wokeism, but that we should all be bold enough to take steps to correct our colonial past. So you can get an idea what the bro is about. He's always pushing kaupapa in a good way, using humour, art and technology to hold conversations from a Māori perspective. And his latest project, We Are the Mainstream, takes us into the future with Auraki, an augmented reality character created to help manaaki media organisations around cultural competency and awareness of te ao Māori. Up next, we'll bring in Hori to have a kōrero about this kaupapa. Kia mau tonu atura. Kia ora Hori, welcome to the NAIR podcast. I'm here with my co-hosts Leonie, Hayden and Meriana Johnsen, sending you a big mihi up there in Auraki. Thanks for joining us.
Kia ora koutou. Thanks for having me.
So what inspired this latest campaign, bro? Was there an event? Has there always been some curiosity about the internal strategies in media organisations and their cultural competency, or what sort of, kicked it off?
I actually studied digital media at university, so I've always kind of been aware around editing and all of that mahi. But really the catalyst of it was an exhibition that me and Tami had done. It was a few years ago now. And there was a journalist kind of interviewing us after the opening night. And I don't know, I could tell that Tami he wasn't vibing with the guy. Like the end, he kind of was like, oh, it's just great to get these Maori stories into, mainstream media. And it was real funny. And Tami kind of turned to him and said, we are the mainstream. And it always stuck with me. And then I think with this thing, I just started building around that idea around, if you look at it from a te ao Māori perspective, is, we feel that we are the stream, we are that awa. So ko mātou ke te Auraki, so we are the mainstream, and ko mātou ko ngā awa, so ngā moana, ngā roto. So I kind of built this kind of monologue around it, and then it was like, we allow you to swim in our streams, but me maumahara ko mātou ki te Auraki, so just to remember that we think we are the mainstream. So it was kind of that was the initial kind of concept. that worked itself into kind of murals and stuff. And then I kind of, and then I just started kind of building on it more over the next couple of years. And I guess there's kind of no secret around, the way Māori have been represented within the media. If you take Stuff, for example, who made a public apology a couple of years ago around that, this is kind of where it kind of started to move. Well, maybe we could look at, other media agencies and, kind of flip the script and then actually ask of them to be more transparent around that. So that's how I came up with Auraki, this little character that we kind of is going to hopefully go into these spaces.
Yeah, or even go back to Stuff and see what they've done since, because there has been some criticism since that big apology.
There has, and I suppose we know better. Like, this is long game stuff. It's hard to create like real kind of authentic competencies within, when you're dealing with this kind of kaupapa. So I think it is interesting to go back, because there has been some criticism, and we've had chats with Carmen and about this, and she's known about this for over a year now. So it's slowly just been building, and then earlier this year we were like, well, let's do this. We weren't able to do it because of COVID, so it just sat there for a while, and then we're like, well, why don't we just do it? So it kind of coincides 2 years exactly. The day that we hope we go into Stuff actually coincides on the exact same day they released it 2 years prior. So
is Carmen, have you talked to other media execs? For our listeners who don't know, Carmen Parahi is one of the execs at Stuff who spearheaded the apology and gathered together that really cool kahui of reporters to do the audit and do the research. Have you talked to other executives and other media organisations yet?
Definitely people within those spaces. So it's about getting up to the higher ups in those things. About I've been told not to say the A word or audit word, but when I picture it in my head, if you kind of give a comparison, it kind of is like that, but from a place of manaaki. So if I look at it, I kind of see it like Te Ao Māori is like kind of like the IRD, and Auraki's like the accountant, really, and these media agencies are the kind of client. And so what can Auraki do to kind of, help in a more creative way, maybe kind of give some insight into our world, and also give them a kind of some tips on why Māori think the way we do. And, and you're right, and constantly there's fuck-ups that you see happen in headlines, and you wonder, how did that get through? Yeah, and this isn't to fuck it itchy those people at all. It's actually, yes, it starts with a challenge of, obviously, like, we throw that weddle at them first, but it does definitely come from a place of manaaki. Like, you're better off knowing those little things if it's known, not just a couple of po that are there that kind of everyone turns to, and you guys probably know that they'll go to straight away. And, if everyone was lifted their things, it probably, things might not slip as much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's the thing, that's the way it is at the moment, is that, there's very few journalists, and the three of us, didn't help that when we left. But, and then you have very few, there's hardly any at the editorial level, right? So, you might write a great piece as a Māori and journalist, and then you whakamana the kaupapa, and then the Pākehā sub-editor goes and slaps some headline on it that just, the mamai. I could see Te Kuru, like that's the absolute mamai, when someone bungles a headline. But yeah, like you say, you can't have just a few people, a few po who are carrying all of the cultural mahi or the cultural labour within their org.
Yeah.
I'm interested how like this kind of takes it further than what Stuff did with, like, how is this audit sort of build on that or go deeper than that did?
This starts off as this kind of demonstration, right? So Auraki will be like literally what we've done is we've mapped their buildings. So think of Auraki as this living tiko that is actually like right there. So you can only access it through your wire, through your media outlet. And so in the beginning, it knocks on the door, it's knocking on the windows, and it's quite a large figure. And it kind of, it's looking through the windows, like waiting to be invited in.
Just for our listeners who might not be up to scratch with what our bro is describing, it's a 3D augmented reality figure named Auraki.
Yeah.
And it's downloadable through your new app.
Yes, yeah. So you can see it when you download the app, and there are trigger points around that area where you can, the public can visually see from outside this character on the building, or like sitting down on the kind of eave, kind of like on a pare. It kind of sits like on that. Yeah. So it's really cool. The first part of it. The second part is to actually get it into the environment. Once the piece is in the environment, we actually leave the taonga with them for a couple of months, where it actually learns from its environment. And the whakaaro there is around, we know that tikanga and kawa are different in every single marae that you go to. There's different tika. So it learns that the tikanga and kawa, what's been happening in there, and it prompts questions. So it asks them to interact with the Auraki. And once we gather this information from the data that we've collected, then we sit down and we wānanga through what could suit each potential space. And that's probably just going into it a bit further. If I'm coming back to your question, is that you've got a completely separate entity altogether coming in and going, well, maybe this could be a way to look at it, or, pēr tēnei whakaaro, or this or this, or so yeah, that's the art for me, is actually kind of getting this thing inside.
So what's an example of the sorts of tikanga Aurakis trying to learn from, say, the likes of the New Zealand Herald? Like, what is it that they are offering him up to learn? Like, is it questions like, how do you receive visitors, and what happens if a mātanga Māori dies? Is that sort of thing? Yeah,
it's actually just asking their staff, the people that work in there, where they sit. So trying to gain a gauge on where their competency levels are. It actually it gives the pātai. So that's you actually have to look, and Auraki gives you the pātai, and it starts off like as simple as like, do you speak te reo Māori? Where are you, like, on your thing? Is it beginning, middle, or you're up the top? It starts off simple as that, and then some of the questions are, have you read any of the articles in the treaty? Just bits like that, like which people, a lot of people will be like, oh, no, I haven't. So it's gauging on where people are, whether they're like, lower level or right up the big wigs up here, and trying to gauge where, as a collective, they are.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's the cool thing, is once we have all of that, then we can, because we learn from Auraki as well. So he kind of takes on, I don't know, it could be like kind of an AI kind of part, but it kind of takes on this thing, and each Auraki is separate to the other, which I like. Is, for me as an artist, I'm real stoked on the different kind of palettes and colour palettes that goes into each other space. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, actually.
Who did you work with on this? I saw some footage of you in the golem suit,
in the athlete suit.
In the athlete suit.
Yeah, that's been the real. I think that's why I'm so close to it, because I've actually I am Auraki, like kind of.
Awesome.
I've become this weird little creepy fish.
Creepy fish.
You know, that's all because we wanted to make. That's where because he's got all the Ononahi like coming off him, and I always kind of see myself like a little ika. So I was like, I want him to be like a little creature. So he is just a water-based kind of character, and so just to put him in the space for me is rad.
Effort.
Yeah, and so who did you work with on this, bro? You didn't come up. Who's behind the tech?
So the tech's Toy World. I've worked with Joff and Ethan and Finn. They're a group in iSpark in Wellies, and worked on with them with a couple of different AR kind of projects. And when I kind of put this to them, they were like, okay, let's see how we did this. So I kind of did the first parts of getting it all like done, and I managed to find an animator to rig it all up. And then Victoria University, I did a lecture there not long ago, and they were like, oh, we have a motion capture studio out in Marama there. And I was like, can I jump in the suit? And they're like, yep. So
Yeah.
I was like, all right.
That's how it happens, eh?
So that's how it happened. And I jumped in the suit. So they've taken all the motion capture. It's gone back to our guys that rig it all up. So each Auraki acts in a different kind of way. There's like, it's pretty like awkward and shame, but like I'm like dancing in some and like waving to people or like I'll shake my head there's different kind of generic actions that it makes, and it can walk up and down the building. Yeah, so it's constantly doing different things, and once it's in the space, it kind of acts like a po within their whare.
So once this, I'm not sure, I'm visualising like a bit of a taniwha, but that's what I think maybe these media orgs need is a taniwha at their window peering in. And so once it comes in, that then, over time, after, there's a shift in people's perceptions as they come to commit to cultural competency and do more, then it becomes a po. I'm sort of trying to visualise that movement. I think it's an awesome whakaaro.
Yeah. Yeah, the kind of other cool thing about it is it kind of represents Te Ao Māori. Like you guys might not be able to see this kind of, the elephant in the room, but it's there, So I love that part of it as well, and I love the part that your media thing that you have is the thing that gives you that lens to that world. That's a really cool part of it, yeah. But once it's been there for 2 months, we then kind of go, look, this is what we think we can do. Do you want to keep this taonga on? So this is the demonstration first, and then it's like we get to that point where we think it will be towards Waitangi, and then we come in again and we start it from Waitangi, and it goes round, and then we come back, it constantly updates too. Because once you're, like a notification that you get, it can continually speak. And we hope to develop enough that they can actually go back and ask questions as well. It kind of becomes like a cultural kind of consultant within their space and their atia.
The Trojan horse of cultural consultants.
Are you curious about how business can be better? I'm Simon Pound, and I host Business is Boring, a podcast where I kōrero with some of the most interesting people in entrepreneurship, commerce, and making things happen. Tune in to Business is Boring every Tuesday, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network in partnership with Spark Business Lab.
Kia ora, I'm Duncan Grieve, founder of The Spin-Off. You can help us keep all of The Spin-Off's award-winning journalism free for everybody by becoming a member today at thespinoff.co.nz/donate.
The thing I'm struggling to get my head around, because this is a subject that I have been obsessed with for 10 years, I've written a lot about.
Yeah.
And it's the difference between intention and action. Because you're not really going to meet anyone an executive from any, or an editor from any media organisation in New Zealand who doesn't want to do better. They all want to do better.
All right.
But you don't know what you don't know. And so I just wonder if a lot of the responses that you'll end up getting is this sort of super eager, deep desire to be better and do all the things, but then the reality is ignorance that is there within even good, well-meaning people often wins on the day because you just don't know. Do you know what I mean? I guess that's why I'm sort of hopeful that an AI can learn to map where those ignorances lie, because it's been really hard trying to figure it out with just a boring old human brain.
Yeah, ignorance is bliss, and it really is. And then I think that's the real, the only part I'm quite nervous about is that that's why we had to show our hand. We kind of really were like, okay, let's put this out a month before we go out, because either way we've said in our tono, so most of them have now received our tono, and we've said in it is like, either way, we're coming. It is what it is. Yeah. So things might get really quite awkward, but we've said, like, you know, that's the whole thing. And the thing about working in that space, that virtual space, is that Auraki can sit there forever. You know, it can constantly be there. So that the point of it is to actually, if you don't want to be involved, kei te pai, but it will sit there and it will constantly want to come in and be invited in.
What do you hope to see come out of this? You've kind of talked about that already, but what's the desired outcome, the ideal outcome?
For our people, I think to see these agencies actually, you know, genuinely trying, as opposed to it potentially just becoming a box ticking kind of exercise that they have, like, you know, and, you know, to be honest, we know the people that have been in these spaces, and that's exactly what they say they are. So, you know, it is kind of, we're just kind of trying to check out, what are you guys actually up to? You know, what are you guys doing? And are you doing anything? Or where does the start of the competency levels start? Is it at, like, hey, we put wharepaku on the toilet and tari on the office? Are we there? Is that where we're at?
Yeah.
Or, which is kei te pai, like, honestly, if that's where you're at, that's where you're at. But then it's like, how do we move there and come, like, you know? So it's
and be honest about where you're at, eh?
Yeah. I love that aspect of the transparency, because I've been privy to a lot of conversations behind closed doors, especially with the introduction of the Public Journalism Fund. Like, the kahui Māori of journalists were front and centre saying this is where this money should go, this is how all of our organisations need to change. That organisation, New Zealand and Air, and the other people that were involved in that, they know exactly what the rautaki should be for cultural competency in media, but it just doesn't filter out. So the transparency aspect of this is super exciting.
Yeah, it's whether they do it. I mean, I see this, like, we're starting with media, but we want to move into educational spaces, more corporate spaces, politics. Like, there's no end to where this could go. You know, you could have Auraki sitting on the top of the beehive. It's just like...
I was just picturing that too.
Well, it's so easily done. Like, it's so, and that's where I see it going forward. This is just the beginning of this. So we had to start somewhere. So we just were like, oh well, let's start there and see how that goes.
See how it goes.
Yeah.
This is a shit question, but how do you guys afford for this to keep going forever and ever? I feel like digital media startups are expensive to run.
Yeah, it is. I was saying to Kuru that I'm definitely taking a massive hit on this one. But I can see, like, this actually being bigger. Yeah, and it's nice to get finally. I've been, you know, this whole Web3 space and NFTs and all of these things. I've kind of sat on the fence and just looked at it for a couple of years now. And this is kind of my entry into that world. And I think for Te Ao Māori as a whole, like going into that space is inevitable. We need to be there. And if you can take that space and be in there, why not? And this is why I've just like kind of a bit doubled down on it. But Mia's probably going to kick my ass. But yeah, it's just I honestly have an inkling that, you know, that something will come from this.
So you're optimistic. It's gonna, because I am deeply cynical and I feel like there's all this like Leonie was saying, lots of, not about your project, bro, God, I don't want to fuck you, but about media organisations' willingness to change. And I think there's a lot of high-level kōrero, and there's a lot of the boardroom chat, and how can we be good tiriti partners, and let's put that in our annual report. But that isn't trickling down, in my experience, to the people who are producing the content, who are putting our views out into the world, who are, writing these dodgy headlines, So... how do you see that do you see that filtering down, that actually it's the people on the ground doing the mahi, making the news, writing articles, that are going to be less ignorant?
So, I kind of don't see it like filtering down. I see it kind of like filling up like that way. Coming from all angles, I suppose. Oh. Because, the ones at the top are the hardest ones to get to.
Yeah.
So it's like if we can kind of, fill these rooms, and that was the initial project, was to actually fill this space up with water and have Auraki kind of swimming in the space. But if we're able to do that and raise those levels, and it's a long game though. If you take again what they've done, it was a really ballsy thing what they did. And it would have been so hard to do. But, you've got to give it to them for kind of keeping to their guns and doing it. And now it's kind of like, well, like you said, like, what's happened?
Yeah.
I think it's probably important to point out that it's not just non-Māori media organisations that you're looking at, eh?
No, so Whakaata Māori was one of the first, because we're like, we can't be inclusive. We have to have our own in there. And it was interesting talking to one of my mates today about it, and it's like, it'd be interesting to hear like what their whakaaro on this and where they are. It could be in a thing of that maybe they've done all this stuff or maybe they haven't, or do they expect everyone just to know it, or so there's that kōrero, which is real interesting too.
So how many organisations are we talking here? Like, how many sort of organisations have you identified as being big enough to be included in this project?
7.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Who are they?
Yeah, that was what I wanted to ask too. Kōwai.
Who are they all? Kōwai.
There's the main ones. the main ones or whatever. But yeah, there's stuff, MediaWorks, NZME, TVNZ, Whakaata Māori, RNZ, couple others that are hanging around, but it's
is the spin-off one of them?
Well, we haven't heard back. We can send the tono out easy to you guys, but it's for us, for what our capabilities at the moment of what we can do, it again adds to the cost of what we're actually doing. So it's and that's the thing, is like, in the end, where do we look at in terms of if they do take this on, and then that's the other chat that needs to be had, because it's got to get, something's got to come from it, So it's so it's interesting, kind of started off as the way we are, and then see where it goes to, because we're learning about how this is going to go in the next month before we head your ways.
You guys need investors. You need deep pockets, some rich Māori person / people / iwi to be like, here's some pūtea so that you can go deeper into your research and development. That's what you guys need. So if you're listening,
any
of you money bags, Tēnā pai tēnei investment.
Aye.
I think it's just we'll see how it goes. Yeah, but we always end up kind of. I know that's what we are. We're artists, so you kind of just. I'm lucky enough that I get to do this for a full-time thing. So there is risks involved, but I kind of I'm kind of got that fuck it. Okay, we'll just do it. See how it goes.
The best attitude.
Yeah, I love that's how you roll.
The fuck it attitude kind of, it's worked so far. I don't know. It's just kind of.
It gets stuff done.
And so how can everyday Māori and non-Māori support this? Can we download the app?
Yep. So it'll be available hopefully in 2 or 3 weeks. And then it'll be a downloadable thing, and hopefully we'll have a remote view of it as well. And within the app, you'll actually be able to look at, so the dates of what we're doing is we come up on the 28th of November, we're there. And on the 2nd of December, which is a Friday, 7 p.m, we open it to the public. So they can come to an exhibition space, because you can't just walk in, you can't walk into those spaces and see what we've been up to. So we're like, let's have a separate space where people can come and we can tell them about what we've been doing. And in that space, we'll have 10 new, they're old works, so 10 works that I've done over the last 10 years, but they've all been animated, and will be the kind of first NFTs that we release also. So there is a bit of a game plan at the end of it, and kind of more tactile art pieces that you can get at the show as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll just wrap us up there. There was a mean kōrero, but big mihi to you, Hori, for bringing this kaupapa forward and articulating it to us today.
Yeah.
Love the conceptual layers of it. That's cool as. Thanks to my co-host, Leonie and Meriana, and to our podcast manager, Te Aihe. You can catch us on Spotify or wherever else you get your podcasts. We'll have another one in a couple of weeks. Keep an eye out for the app on the Hori app, Auraki, coming out in the next couple of weeks. And ask yourself, ask your friends, ask your whānau, ask your organisations, how can we do better? It's just a nice friendly reminder, good time for us to say, what are we actually up to in terms of upskilling ourselves culturally. So until then, e hoama, just remember, o mātou ke te auraki, we are the mainstream.
NAIR is public interest journalism funded through New Zealand On Air and brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network. It was hosted and researched by Te Kuru Jews with Meriana Johnsen and Leonie Hayden. NAIR was produced by Te Aihe Butler, with senior production from Jane Yee and project management from Mark Kelleher.
Do you find it hard staying optimistic with all the financial news in the media? I'm Bernard Hickey, and on my podcast, When the Facts Change, I'm here to help you navigate the ever-changing landscape of economics in Aotearoa. So join the conversation every Friday on When the Facts Change, brought to you by the Spin-Off Podcast Network in partnership with KiwiBet.
Kia ora e te iwi, Te Aihe Butler here, podcast manager at The Spin-Off. If you enjoy listening to our podcasts, consider supporting our mahi by signing up to become a Spin-Off member at thespinoff.co.nz/donate. The Spin-Off Podcast Network.